Flame on! How's everybody doing tonight? And I'm here with my special guest, Nick Lenz. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good.
There we go. And tonight, I know this is a late stream for us folks. Tonight, we're talking about Jojo Bizzare Adventures Part 5, Golden Wind.
Yeah, aired back in 2019. This one I actually watched when it aired. When it first aired. So when this season was first announced, the creator of the series announced at a I thought it was a fashion show. Turns out it was an art exhibition. He announces himself that this was coming. And this is sort of a slight departure from the previous series. For one thing, the main character himself is not exactly related to the Jojo family, per se. He's the son of Dio Brando. Dio Brando is seen as a picture, but there's no flashbacks to him at all in this whole story. It's kind of interesting. It's very self-contained. And when the story wrapped up, because I looked it up, apparently that none of these characters appear again after this. This is very like a standalone story.
Spin-off, if you will.
Yeah. But it's part of the main series, but it's not part of the whatever adventures the Jojo family was doing. We get references to stuff, but yeah. Okay, so it looked like Nemo was in high school. I was 21 when this show came out. Not 21. I was 31 when the show came out. Because it came out in 2019.
2019. I was out of high school, but I don't think I was out of college yet. I think I was in my second year of college, if I'm being honest.
Yeah. So this part aired, because I have a Wikipedia page loaded up here, aired from October 6, 2018. I thought it was 2018, my mistake. It concluded in July 2019. Had 39 episodes, which was the same amount as Diamonds Unbreakable. Unlike in the case of Diamond Unbreakable, where the lead voice actor passed away, this one is still very much alive. Giorno Giovanna, voiced by Philip Reach. Aside from the story, I'm not overly familiar with him, but he is our main character, and this actually is probably the only JoJo series where the main character himself doesn't get a lot of development. It's more like his supporting cast gets a ton of development throughout this whole story. The story starts off with not with Giorno. Well, actually, it does. He basically is. He apparently runs a taxi. He has his own taxi for some reason, and he is just because apparently this is set in Italy, and apparently the whole thing is gangsters, and these cops are on the take, and also the fact that we had this guy called Leaky Eye, who is apparently not really a pusher per se. He's more like basically muscle, who basically does his own thing in the area, and Giorno kind of defeated him. And then we see Kunichi for the previous part. Yeah, he's back here. He's only in the first handful of episodes, and then he's gone. Where basically he arrives in Japan to look for Giorno.
Now, Steel Ball Run, we'll get to that one, but I'm pretty sure that's a spin-off.
That's considered part 7, but it's a reboot.
Okay.
And that was the first one to actually be published. The manga, at least, was first published monthly, because after this part came out, they did Stone Ocean, and after that concluded, he switched from weekly to monthly to take more time developing the story. And some might be thinking, in English dub, does Kenichi retain his voice actor from Diamonds Unbreakable? He does.
He carries over. He does.
Yep. And of course, he's here with Jojo Kujo, who's also back here. Except Pearson, technically 2 episodes. Mostly put, he's here sitting in an office. We see a picture of the cast of part 3, which is a good nod. He has a couple conversations with Kenichi, and that's it. That's all we see of Jotaro. It's more like a minor role for him, but at least Matt Mercer came back to these episodes.
True.
And
I'll admit I did fall off around this time. I just don't know. I don't know why, to be honest. I genuinely did. But part 6 sounds interesting at the very least.
yes,
But back to this. This one, like I said, like you said earlier, Dio's son is more of a flat character. He himself doesn't develop that much over the course of the season.
yeah, he
But
does. Plus, he wears like this weird out, like, and people call this series bizarre. Well, see, look at the outfits these guys wear. Oh my gosh! Like, where the heck did he was
bizarre. This is the most bizarre. This is the series that is most weird, for lack of a better term, because I don't want to.
Yeah, in terms of the outfits. Yes. So then Kenichi, then apparently Kenichi is tricked to leave Giorno's taxi by leaving a suitcase in there, which, by the way, he never retrieves it except that his girlfriend comes to Italy in a video game. His girlfriend from part 4 comes to Italy, confronts Giorno to get his suitcase back. He does get his passport back later on in another episode. Then he leaves the series. I think that Kenichi and Jojo are here just fan service. That's literally the whole purpose of being here. It's like they're here to introduce the cast. And they don't really interact. Basically, the kind of it's like kind of like a crossover in a way. And then Giorno is being followed by a guy in a white suit, not tuxedo, mind you, very similar to Giorno's wearing. And his name is, well, Bruno Baracchi, who is, for all intents and purposes, he is the true star of this one because he gets the most development out of the entire cast.
So true. So true.
And he's voiced by Ray Chase. Does a pretty good job voicing him. And it's like, I don't know anything about Leaky Luca. And then he rides this weird train where it's like going down a hill very slowly. And it's like, and apparently he has a moody and Jonas was in his seat. And comes the grossest scene that apparently the Naruto ripped off, where Bruno licks Giorno's face only once.
Yes, fun fact, the actual manga for JoJo Bizarre Adventure was serialized in the late 80s. It did get one earlier anime adaptation in the early 2000s, but the pilot was so bad it was shelved.
Yeah, though this came out, this came out in the late 90s, like from 95.
By the time you get to part 5 manga-wise, yeah, it was like 92, 93, I want to say.
Let me look up on here for this one.
Please.
Let's see. The manga came out from December 11th, 1995, was included on April 5th, 1999.
Wait, this part or JoJo in general?
This part.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, this is weekly. This had how many chapters? This had throughout its run, it had 155 chapters. Which, fun fact, Viz Media for the last several years has been releasing these new editions, and I think they just start releasing part 6 here.
They did
in English.
In English, they just translated part 6.
Yeah, like part 1 was originally in 5 volumes. They shortened down to 3. It's like the volumes produced here are shorter than the ones released in Japan. They're basically the size of like this omnibus right here. That's basically the size of their books. And they're all pretty much in hardcover. I think like they're currently like the only one of the very few major manga series published in hardcover because everything is always paperback.
That is true.
Yep. So then this leads into, well, Giorno has this ability. His stand ability is Golden Wind. He probably got the same way the rest of the family because he's loosely related to the Jojo family because of Dio stealing Jonathan Joestar's body. So his ability is that he can sort of transform things into other objects. And then we have Bruno's ability for his one, Zipperman, which the whole thing is he creates zippers in random areas. Not people's bodies, mostly. Mostly it's not like, oh, does he zip people in half? Well, he basically he basically has a zipper, basically have people's arms fall off. Though he's able to put it back on after a while. And throughout the first couple episodes, we have Jordan and Bruno kind of conflicting with each other. Jordan's on the run from him. Then apparently, because of the fact that Jorno sees Bruno as a good, kind-hearted person, they join forces. And you're like, really? After these two spent time fighting each other, hiding in someone's body. Oh, hi, Tibia. We're doing anime chat.
What's up, Tibia? Yeah, this is Anime Blaze, Jojo Bizzare Review, Part 5, Adapting Golden Wind. Welcome to the show.
Yep. So then, of course, Jorno was like, I want to become a gang star. With him basically pulling back and thing like being like it's like he wants to become a massive celebrity. That's kind of in a way what he wants to be. And then like, oh, let's meet the team because first basically before we meet the team, he also gonna be a capo. Name, let's see if we can find it here. Because basically, Pucciana. Yeah, he's this big, humongous guy who's in prison for reasons. And his standard abilities, they can randomly some objects to his cell, like a refrigerator, a gun, food. Like, what? So, in order to be initiated into the mafiosa, you have to take this lighter out to this prison, lit, and without the guards noticing. And of course, basically, when he leaves the cell, the guard passes now is a woman, which is a bit unusual for a prison with a male prisoner, because here in the U.S., that is out of the question. They would never. I don't think they would even allow a woman to. It's not a sexism thing. It's just normally they would not allow a woman to be a prison guard where you have male prisoners. It just not like basically they could be like nurses or a warden, but in a place like this, probably not. Like it could be female guards, could be guards for a female in prison, but not for a male prison. It's a bit unusual. See this, and then of course Jordan charms are like, oh, here's a flower. You and he's his passport is also fire, and he put I don't know what's going on, Jahid.
Yeah, you're going.
My camera is buffering for some reason.
Just take your time, man. Just take your time. But yeah, there are certain. You can tell it's a product of its time, for lack of a better.
Again, seriously, here we go. And of course, they combine might of Giorno and Kenichi to beat this thing. Which, by the way, Pucciana, actually Papo, that's the name, Papo, not Pucciana. He has no idea about this because basically he has a reaction like, "Oh, you kept the lighter lit." Oh, of course, also Kenichi tells a little about stands, but we get a little more stands later on, and it's one of the most weirdest explanations I've ever seen. We'll get to that. So it's accepted, and Bruno, and then of course meet the team. We have a young kid named Guido Mista, voiced by Sean Chiplink, who probably a lot of anime fans know him as voice of Subaru from Re:Zero. Mista actually isn't looking. He's actually the sharpshooter of the group. He actually has these sentient bullets, and apparently I think it's like number 5. I think it is like unlucky. So then we have Nicaraj. This is actually his little kid. his stand is that he can summon an airplane called Little Bomber, and he has like a little thing to text stuff. Then you have Loni Abecchio, voiced by Mick Larenter. He is a former police officer who was accused of corruption and then kicked out the police force, and then Bruno just recruits him. Nicaracha, basically, he kind of went the same process that Jordan went through with the whole lighter thing. You guys had no problem. Mista was basically hired in the spot because he's actually a really good shot. He actually shot 3 people in self-defense, but yet he was arrested for murder despite the fact it was self-defense. Corruption, everybody.
A tale as old as time.
Yep. And then, of course, Albecchio decides to do a prank on Giorno by relieving himself in a teapot and have Giorno drink it. And then Giorno tricks him by thinking he did drink it, but he transformed his tooth into a jellyfish. I'm like, well, Albecchio was disgusting. Oh, and what's his hand ability? Basically, he can rewind time like it's a VHS tape player, where you can only rewind basically about usually a few minutes. He does a couple times throughout this. So basically, Papo is supposedly kills himself. The fact Giorno was the one who actually switched out his gun, his banana for a gun. Which, by the way, Papo does not know the fact that he just put a gun in his mouth. He had no idea. And off screen, he basically blows his brains out. We don't see it, but it's implied based on what we hear for the scream and the explosion. You get to hear in the back, which good on basically not including that. And if you're curious, was this in the manga? No, it was not. It's more. I do not remember seeing it there, so at least basically the writer was sensible not to gross out his audience.
True.
With something like that.
True, because something like that can come across as poor taste if not executed properly.
Yeah. So, first task: find Papo's money. So, what do? They rent a boat because they know where it is on this island. And apparently there's a stand user in the organization hears about this, so he decides to attack him by making a duplicate of their boat and have basically they have Giorno disappear, Mista, Albecchio. It takes Bruno basically to clear the whole thing with this whole first stand battle. And apparently at first, Albecchio did not want Giorno to see his stand ability, but later on, basically, he was accepting no problem because he didn't trust him. He had to earn his trust. I mean, just because you earn Bruno's trust does not mean basically you earn the rest of the team's trust. But because of this, he didn't earn his trust, and they got to the island, but there was more assassins there. They kind of had to do converters. Like one assassin had to chase with a freaking semi-truck. Yep, and they take him out. And then, okay, so some might think, where's the money? So they pay a visit to a bathroom, which is being cleaned by 2 janitors. And it's discovered, thank Zipper Man, that Papo's money is behind the urinal. I see this, I'm like, okay, that's but it's not unoriginal. This has happened. People do leave secrets behind urinals. Usually somebody built this. There's nothing unusual for anime to do this, so it's fine. And then, of course, it turns out that this janitor, one of the janitors, the male janitor, is actually another capo. I think it's one of the higher ones who reports back to the boss, which, by the way, the boss himself only communicates via email. He has never, throughout most of the series, he's never seen a person until, the last, 10 episodes when he's seen. And then it turns the other janitor is the boss's daughter. Her name is Trish, and she's voiced by Lisa Friedman. And her outfit is simply put almost like a bikini top with this kind of like a blanket around her legs. Remember this outfit that she wears?
I do.
It's quite interesting to say the least. And here's the thing. You probably think like, oh, these guys are pervy. They might basically fall for her. Nope, none of them do. None of them ever fall for her. Which, because basically, I mean, I'm sure the guys do find her very attractive, but they're probably like, no, she's a boss, so we're not touching her at all. So, at least I appreciate the fact that the entire team are all complete gentlemen about it. Though, with the exception of Nuchiracha, who I think he kind of hits on her at the beginning, and then later on he stops doing that. So, then they have to escort the boss, which she has to get all these special clothes, which Nuchiracha basically has to get them in their rental car, which then he's attacked, and they have to blow up the car along with all the stuff he just bought. And Jorno basically, everyone's like, "Want to go out to get me stuff," but Jorno points out a very interesting thing. We have never seen orders from the boss. Let's contact the boss to get info, which they do. And then Naracha comes back. Of course, he apparently also had, because he followed, he had to take like 20 turns in order for somebody to follow. And then they get a van. And then they go to Pompeii. Which, of course, this leads into a scene that, if anybody's seen Diamonds Unbreakable, like, wait a minute. They have stand used with the same exact ability to the sky. This is one of 2 times this whole show where it's like a repeat of a stand from 2 seasons ago. This one being the reflection stand. Where it's like a mirror world where everybody except like one person, and I think it's one of them. I think it's not Becchio. It was one of them. Puchan, I think it's a Fugo. Yeah, Fugo. His stand is like he's like very clean, but he's also unleashes poison. At one point, he was drooling, so he proceeded to wipe up his own thigh because he drooled on his own thigh. You're like, what? It is one of the weirdest stands I have ever seen. And this stand kills a stand user. And what do they get there? A key. And then they go to a like a fountain, and they find a turtle. And what do the turtle? Simple. Put the key inside the turtle and become Mr. President. That's basically his stand. His stands basically have all of them go inside the turtle and ride a train to Rome. I think it's like Rome. It's basically like a different place. And then we have a hitman team basically try to eliminate them. Which two of them basically are there. One whose ability is to create a fishing pole out of energy. The other is make people old because heat, per se. It is one of the more confusing things, but eventually it's, of course, Bruno obviously is the one that beats them. And after they're dealt with, then we also have this weird one where a woman is convinced to have a baby. And this leads into this baby having a stand who attacks somebody.
Yeah. It gets zany after a while. It really does.
Yeah, and this baby's only around for a very brief period of time. Then the baby's gone. The woman herself, I think she dies. It was really weird. And also it's discovered that Trish has a stand, which we don't know what it is until they ride basically a private jet. Which, of course, they arrive at the airport. They take out this random guy we think is a stand user. And then his stand basically infects the plane, involving movement. And Trish ends up saving the day with her stand. I think it's, let's see, where her stand talks, and, like, her whole thing is, like, stretching stuff. That's kind of her stand. I think she's actually the first heroic female stand user. Though her stand only appears in this portion and doesn't do much after that. Oh, and the Santia stand becomes an urban legend in the Mediterranean, where it just doesn't die; it just randomly attacks ships because it follows moving stuff, and then they eventually get to the island via boat, where okay, so it's just Bruno and Trish. So then they go straight to the boss. They ride an elevator. And then Trish is seen with her arm removed. You're like, what the heck happened? So we kind of see the boss, but not really. We see a stand where it's like an emperor. I think it's like Emperor Crimson, I think it is. Where his whole thing, he can just beam random spots. Eventually, they do take back Trish. So then they all proceed to, of course, Bruno spills the beans about Journal basically joining the organization to take down the boss so he can take over the leadership. So Journal, Bruno, and Trish go on the thing. Becchio joins them. Fugo just doesn't go with them. He just runs off and never seen again. Not knowing what happened to him, he just leaves. Doesn't get killed. The boss doesn't go after him. So it's just Mista, Bruno, Giorno, Trish, Becchio, and Nucaracho joined very last minute. So they have to hide for a while. More hitmen basically after them. And then they get a notification to go to Rome, to the Colosseum. Which they do. Which also involves a very crazy doctor and his weird patient, who he basically treats like a pet. Who also proceeds to basically unleash a plague on Rome. Eventually stop when, I think it's like Jorno traps his helicopter in a plant, and then basically Bruno eliminates him pretty easily. And they arrive at the Colosseum like somebody's contacted them. And it turns out it's Polnareff. Which, by the way, they bring back his voice actor. Like, I think anybody's seen is like, really? Polnareff is back. That's interesting. Excuse me a minute. So, yeah, Polnareff is back, except he's in a wheelchair. He has also lost his legs. He's wearing weird glasses. I think he also lost one of his arms. I think he lost part of his arm, too. And he was fighting the boss organization, who's revealed to be Davio. And also, they kind of figure out who he is. I think it's Becchio got killed part of this when he went to the island when they found where he is. And it turns out, basically, like, the boss has been trying to slowly erase his existence from the world. I'm like, why? Because the show itself doesn't exactly make clear the reason why he does this. And, of course, Becchio is killed. So it's just Mista, Naracha, Bruno. Yeah, the Dub Beers Saturday, Tibia. I saw that.
Nice.
They have not confirmed an episode count for the season yet. All I know is it's out, but no confirmed episode count for the season. I am going to watch it Saturday.
Yeah, but it's about time. Me personally, I would have adapted the final arc as a movie because a lot of anime series are doing that as of late.
I think in the case of Bones, they probably want to do that because they still have also vigilantes to worry about.
That is also true, because that moment. But yeah, that's also true.
Which I actually like Vigilante's first season. That was amazing.
Oh yeah, no, it was good. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah. So then becomes more. But by the way, Davio's got a split personality where one is the boss, the other is this weird kid who's like talks into a toy phone, talks to a frog. like he's on the phone with the boss. At one point, he's talking to the boss with an ice cream cone. What? It was one of the most weirdest things I've seen. And then, like, something happens. I think it involves the arrow because the arrow was here. This is where they. This is Return of the Arrow, which was first seen in Part 4. And now we should kind of reveal exactly what Potter found out about the stands. So the stands come from meteorites, apparently, and somehow people were infecting themselves with these meteorites and getting these stands that no one could see but them. And this was discovered by Polnareff and Jotaro on some journey after they defeated, Dio Brando. How did you feel about this little revelation about where the stands came from?
I was mixed on it at the time, but on a rewatch, I've accepted it.
It is what? It comes out of nowhere.
It really does, though. It's very in your face.
Yeah. So then another weird thing happens where Polnareff is attacked by the boss. Again, this actually was a rematch because apparently they fought years prior. And then everybody starts swapping bodies. So let's see. We have Jonah going to Nucaracha. Bruno goes in the body of the boss. Trish goes to Mista. And Mista goes to Trish. And, of course, basically, Trish is telling him, don't touch my body. And you're probably thinking, did some other famous anime did this, I don't know, in the last several years? Yes, One Piece did the same exact thing. Except that was Trafalgar Law doing with his Dilfu power. He could do that. He can swap hearts. People's personality. This follows the arrow. And then the arrow is picked up by Silver Chariot, who becomes Silver Chariot Requiem, which, weirdly enough, while he's holding the arrow and walking, he looks a lot like Jay Garrick from Jay Garrick the Flash. Did you notice that?
True. He does kind of look like him.
And he just walks. And apparently this causes him to have people swap bodies, like a baby and the mother swapping bodies, a criminal and the cop swapping bodies, a dog and his owner swapping bodies. Like, what? So eventually, he is eventually taken out because Polnareff's dead. Well, his soul gets transferred to the turtle. What a turtle spirit went, I don't know. So they take him out, and then it's time to fight the boss. Also, Nucaracha dies, and then Jero goes back to his body, no problem. Bruno dies in this conflict, and so Giorno basically unlocks his ability. So Emperor Krim's ability. It's Dio's the world, where he can freeze time and move around for a matter of minutes.
Wait, is this confused for Dio's the world ability? Or is this the same thing?
This is confused. It's the same exact power. Because I know the writer has been accused of reusing stand abilities for different characters. And this one had frickin' two. First was our reverse mirror one, and then it was this. You're like, what? Oh, by the way, Davo, the main villain of the series, is voiced by the same guy who voiced Overhaul for My Hero Academia, Kellen Goff. Who does a pretty decent job voicing him. So, he's defeated the most weirdest way possible by having Giorno, his ability, interact with it. Which you're like, wait, didn't this happen with Jotaro and Dio? Yeah, it did. So then Davo ends up in a time loop where he dies, ends up in the morgue, gets run over by a car, ends up in the sewer, and apparently he's done. He's like gone. And then Giorno, Mista, and Trish just walk away. And they kind of mourn deaths to their friends. Giorno becomes the new leader of the mafia. Mista is lieutenant. And Trish becomes a singer. And the thing ends basically kind of how the opening title sequence opens, with Giorno having, the way mafios basically they acknowledge leader by kissing hands, which kind of a very weird ending to the series. It's not like in the case of the previous one where he got run over by an ambulance. This one, he got stuck in a time loop. And you probably think he probably get out at some point. Oh no, he's gone. And aside from a loose follow-up in a video game, there's nothing been followed up with this one since. I mean, Journal does not reappear again outside of the video game. It was like a Jojo video game. And that's kind of been it for this one. It's like, it's very self-contained. It was nice to see Pointer up again. Which I'm sure a lot of people probably who love Star Wars Crusaders probably was brought back because of it. And so I'd be curious, did Dave Production bring him back for that one? Was he not reading the manga? Oh, he was there. He was there. So, and the changes they made, I think it was like very minimal throughout this. But it was not like other studios who alter way too much. Dave Production stays very faithful to the source material. They do a really good job adapting JoJo.
I agree.
And that's kind of basically part 5 in a nutshell.
Definitely, if I had to rank them, I would do part 3 was pretty solid, not going to lie. Part 3, part 2, part 1, because, part 1 is seasons 1 and 2 back to back, so that's not really fair. But and then I put part 5 at the bottom, and the only reason I do that is because Golden Wind gets, for lack of a better term, sus at certain points.
Yeah, it just,
you get what I mean?
Yeah, it's like some stuff is not follow up with it all. Like Fugo, what happened to him? No one knows. Or what happened now? Also, before I almost forgot to mention this, there was a flashback that was depicted. It was shown like before this show even started, where Bruno knew when he was going to die in a standalone story known as Slave Stone, where Bruno's team was asked to investigate this weird suicide involving a woman holding a rock, jumping off a building, and her boyfriend was this painter. I actually think it was a sculptor, and these stones just randomly popped up, and the whole thing is like, don't touch these stones. Like, these stones will pop up like in a car, a stairwell, and apparently this stone was kind of like a death stone. And because this, Bruno knew when he was going to die, because at one point they actually do show this where he somehow is still moving. It's like he should be dead. Like, I think he got his shoulder blown out and he was still moving like he was a zombie. It was almost like revealing that Bruno was kind of like a walking corpse, just not obviously a walking corpse. This whole thing. And it's kind of been hinted at. And then we kind of reveal in this flashback the reason for that. As in the case of Giorno, they do mention that his hair was not originally gold. It just randomly turned blonde when he was 15. Why his hair is in cones, they don't really say. They do say that his mom was I think they say she was Japanese who moved to Italy. And despite being a mom, refused to spend time with her son because she'd rather do partying than spend time with her own child. And Dio probably had no idea he had a son like this at all. None. And the picture of Dio looked a lot like the picture they used in part 3 of when they first showed Dio in the picture. Like, where?
Yeah, a lot. To be fair, from an art direction standpoint, there was some repurposing or redistribution of assets to an extent. I mean, you got to make things easier for yourself.
Mhm.
But yeah, at least with this, there was an in story reason behind it. If you get what I mean.
Yeah, there was some stuff basically. I kind of felt this doll didn't explain, like, where did Jordan get his picture? Where did the characters get their weird outfits? Um, who was Trisha's mom? Because they always show us she was some random woman that Dabo met years ago. I think Trisha's supposed to be about 17. I think she's supposed to be. I think she's supposed to be like a year older than Jorno. And I think like the oldest person, I think it was Albecchi. I think he was the oldest. I think the youngest was Nukarachi. I think he was like 14. I think he was out of the whole team. Fugo was about the same age as Bruno. Kind of. But I do like the stand use they're using here. They have really interesting, very original buildings, except for two of them. But it's just, it's interesting for what it is. I mean, the animation is still fantastic for it. That's probably the best thing about the show, aside from the awesome, probably the music for it. And the voice cast does a really good job with the show.
I agree.
I think the little weakness with the show is probably a little bit in the writing. Kind of, for parts of it, per se. That's probably its weakness for this season.
I agree, but I would argue if we're when we're ranking these, are we since part one was basically 1 and 2 together because it was so short? Are we ranking these set with 1 and 2 separate or with 1 and 2 together?
1 and 2 separately because they're kind of two separate stories.
Okay. Okay. So you rank first. I need a minute to collect my thoughts.
Okay, so I would say the best ones are Diamonds Unbreakable, Stardust Crusaders. Like, if I rank them, like,
they don't have to be in a particular order, just best to worst in your opinion.
I would say out of the 5, this one's probably at number 5. Number 4 is probably I'm gonna put could put Balance and Assay there. I'll put part 3. I'll put part 1 is number 3. Number 2, I'll put Diamonds Breakable, and number 1 is the Star Wars Crusaders.
I got you.
Because the story was so exciting. That was one thing I love about Star Wars. It's exciting. The music is fantastic. But out of the 5, this is probably the weakest of the first 5 parts.
Oh, hands down. And I would say the reason for me why it's the weakest, again, because it doesn't really affect the overall story. And of course, certain scenes can be a little sus, especially on a first watch.
Mm-hmm.
So, but as is, I'd give it a 7.5. I'll be fair because the story itself is at least good.
Yes, and also this show takes place 2 years after Diamonds Breakable, just 2 years later. Part 5, basically Stone Ocean Part 6, that's 10 years later. Really? Basically, yeah, it takes place 10 years later, which that one doesn't, well, at least that one is a little bit better. At least features like a member of the family, but it's the first one to feature a female lead, that one. Though it has some issues, not in the course of story, of how it gets released, because it was streamed on Netflix. Unlike the first 5, which were aired on TV, this was the first one not aired on TV, because aired exclusively on Netflix first, then it aired on TV, which is a very weird way to release a show. Do you agree?
I agree.
Yeah. I mean, out of all the parts we have right now, I mean, we have Stone Ocean. I mean, we have Steel Run coming next year. I mean, I think we kind of agreed that after this, we were going to like do a different show, but we only have one part left to cover for JoJo.
True.
We can
Yeah,
do that and then
we
do
might.
something else.
Yeah, we might as well go ahead and do part 6 as well.
Yeah, probably a later date.
Yeah, to be determined.
Yeah.
But as for me, my thoughts on the season, like I said, it's good for what it is. It does get the. I mean, this is the most bizarre you'll ever see out of the series. The most
Mhm.
bizarre, hands down. Part 6 is much more toned down. If you are confused or you're just hopping in for the first time, first of all, I thank you. I hope we didn't spoil the larger series for you. And we also reviewed some of the earlier seasons. Hopefully I've attached it to my anime playlist. But either way, I will set that up in the IQ card up top. But Nick, your final thoughts?
On
No,
on
on the show. We're not doing outros yet.
okay on Golden Wind.
Yes.
Like I mentioned, it's basically it's interesting to say the least. It's not necessarily a bad season per se. It feels like a step down from Diamonds Unbreakable
Hmm.
because you watch those first four parts, you get a lot of excitement out of it. This one you get actually a pretty good excitement, but not as much excitement as the other ones.
True. So true.
And it feels like this one also was revisiting part 3 a little bit with the whole kind of like globetrotting, but it's more like traveling Italy. It's more like a loose advertisement for Italy. It's the best way to describe it. It's like something that probably the writer wanted to do for some time. All shows set in Italy because he loves Italy so much.
Nemo says Golden Stardust Breakers is good. Not gonna lie, especially the action, the fighting scenes. I'm not. We're just talking purely from a story standpoint, not so much the action and the animation. From a story standpoint,
Yeah,
because the animation of Stardust Breaker is fire. Like let's not refute that here. Let's be real for a second.
yeah.
And but yeah, the reason we try to prioritize, we scale from story, engagement, connectivity to the larger series, and animation/action.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're welcome to your opinion. We can even do a follow up where I have you on board, Nemo, and we can debate that. I'm well worth the I'm willing to have the conversation. But it is, Lord, I didn't realize it was a slate. But yeah, let's go ahead and get the final thoughts. Final thoughts. Like I said, it's a 7.5 out of 10. This is the first time I've watched it since it aired on anime in 2019. So I had to get used to it again. Not gonna lie, but yeah, I enjoyed it for what it was. Nick, how about you?
Yeah, of course. As I know about some of the stuff happened in this one because I did stream recently on Discord, so that's what I kind of remembered. Like I streamed it like a few months ago. Right now we're streaming on Discord. We're streaming Stone Ocean right now, which we're getting close to be done with it.
Yeah, you just finished watching Solo Leveling recently, haven't you not?
Yes, I did. It was awesome.
Nice,
Can't wait
nice.
for season 3.
Now, do you want to count like manhwa? Because technically, Solo Leveling and High School, God of High School, those are Korean manhwa series.
Yes.
So, did you want to count them as part of Anime Blaze if we decide to cover them, or do you want to make that
Yeah.
a subtopic?
Uh, I would definitely cover them because, well, Solo Leveling is it's pretty popular. People like the reception I've heard toward it, especially after I watch it. It's well earned its reception where it's very positive.
Okay, maybe that's something we could consider.
And it's only 2 seasons.
2 seasons. So yeah, you can. Hold on, so I'm going on my lighting. But yeah, there are also like some other series like Danmachi or Eminence and Shadow. That one's actually getting a movie next year.
Yeah, the movie's been teased for like 2 years now.
What was that?
That was my Instagram.
Oh, but But yeah, God, I'm running out of. God, we're live too. Nick, go ahead and start. Anything you want to talk, anything you want to promote, anything you got coming out, please promo.
Um, well, I do have Doctor View who probably do it tomorrow. Got a review for Doctor Who coming. Got a couple of them, and then I'll hopefully get a chance to start watching Return of Ultraman afterwards.
Nice, nice. That okay. As for me, I've mostly been doing like trying to some game footage of a what if story I'm working on. I'm kind of trying to what if Raditz joined Goku. That's something I've got in the works right now. Also, some gaming streams. Whether I'm even starting Matt, EA Madden 25, college football, NCAA college 25. Just stuff to keep more content on the channel. And I'm actually preparing for a Hogwarts Legacy playthrough. So that's something to look forward to. And of course, our long awaited project collab of the year, Deadpool versus Wolverine 1 year later. That'll be hopefully within the next 2 weeks. Two to
Yep.
3 weeks. So yeah, I know today's the stream is probably end up being a bit of a dud, but for those who actually did join or reach or engage with the video afterward, I appreciate you taking the time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, comment, subscribe. Thank y'all so much for watching us this evening. Flame off.